They tell me the cracks in the wall are just the building settling. My name is Otto Rehmann. I was a Jeff Rider, sniper, 2nd Battalion, Infantry Regiment 134, 44th Division, 6th Army at Stalingrad. Back then they said there was a ghost in the Rubble shooter the Russians couldn't spot, and our own men only saw when he was already gone. I spent months behind a scope watching that legend crawl through the ruins, until one day it took my own shape below me. Now I sit in this chair by the window, 3rd floor, facing the courtyard where they've torn down the old garages. Dust hangs there most days. A thin white veil over the parked cars, and the bicycles chained by the entrance. Someone left a child's ball out there last week. It hasn't moved. The wind never seems to reach it. The plaster by the radiator keeps crumbling. Little white flecks on the floor, always in the same place. I sweep them into my hand and drop them into the bin. They're back the next morning. When the tram passes 2 streets away, the wall vibrates. Fine grit rains down. It sounds like a building giving up on itself, 1 grain at a time. Today the dust isn't white. It's gray-brown, brick dust, the color that never left my boots after Stalingrad. It trickles down in a thin line and lands on the floor between my shoes. When I look up, I see something wedged in the crack. A tiny chip of glass. It catches the weak autumn light and throws it back into my eyes like scope reflection. Herr Rehmann. The nurse knocks twice and leans in. You want the television on? I shake my head. My hand stays on the armrest. The crack in the wall widens in my vision, even if it doesn't move at all. For a moment, just a moment, I see an eye looking back at me out of the plaster. My eye, clouded the way the doctor says it will be in a few months. No, I say, no television. She shrugs, checks the pills in the little plastic cup on the table, and leaves. When the door closes, the room is quiet again. Just the ticking clock over the sink. Just my breath. Just the old, familiar itch between my shoulder blades, as if someone has sighted in on me and is waiting for me to move. I stare at the crack, and it's not a wall anymore. It's rubble. It's a hole in a floor, with daylight pouring through dust. It's a twisted staircase in a smashed apartment block. And down there on the broken steps lies a body in my own field gray. Rifle still in its hands, face turned toward the shattered ceiling. The first time I see myself dead, I am 22, Stalingrad is still burning, and the story they tell about the sniper in the ruins finally has a face. They say every city has its own ghosts. Stalingrad has so many that even the Russians give them names. We are in a commandeered apartment the first time I hear the story. Late October 1942. The Volga fog presses against the windows like wet cloth. We sit on the floor because the furniture has long since been broken for firewood. Candles gutter on empty shell cases stuck into cracks in the parquet. Lieutenant Vogt spreads the map over a coffee table with one leg missing. Someone props it up with a brick. The colored grease pencil circles tonight's sector. Grain elevator. Zarista Gorge. Workers' housing blocks with no names anymore. Here, Vogt says, tapping the penciled square. The Russians call this place the House of 8 Corners. Crossroads, cellars, a good field of fire to the river. Command wants eyes there. We provide them. His finger slides from the house symbol to a penciled line drawn from our current position. It passes through to streets that do not exist anymore, except as broken outlines between mounds of bricks and half-standing walls. Across from me, Kruger chews bread that tastes of smoke and brick dust. He is my spotter. Thinner than me, eyes like ice chips. He taps the butt of his rifle against his boot in a slow rhythm. 5 taps, pause, 5 taps, pause, always 5. Locals say no one stays there. He mutters with his mouth full. Russians avoid it. Even before we came, even before the revolution. Isn't that what Ivan said? Ivan is not his real name. His real name is something long and soft with too many vowels. We don't bother with it. He sits by the empty window frame, hunched over his cigarette as if trying to hide the ember from the night outside. He wears a German greatcoat over his Soviet tunic. The collar doesn't sit right. He glances back at us, then at Vogt. Dompod de Voynikum. he says, picking ash off his lofty shoes. House with the double. Old people say, HM. He struggles for the word. A second man, the one who lies below. He draws a shape on the floor with his cigarette. A rectangle, then another rectangle beneath it. What kind of double? I ask. My voice sounds younger in that room than it does in my head now. It hasn't cracked with cold and dust yet. Ivan lifts his hand and taps his own chest. You, he says. If you are unlucky, you look down in the rubble. You see yourself already dead, they say. When the house falls, it must know who it takes. It keeps him ready below. Someone laughs. It might be Muller, the radio man, always quick with a joke. His bandaged fingers drum against the bakelite case. So we are fighting architecture now, he says. Houses that collect their own dead in advance. Very efficient, these Bolshevik buildings. The others chuckle. The candlelight jumps over their faces, over the map, over the metal cups, and over the circle of my rifles, laid side by side with others by the door. Vogt doesn't laugh. He presses his lips together, then shrugs. Superstition, he says. These people had nothing to believe in except ghosts before the party came. It's just a building, a crossroads, a good place to see the Volga crossings. That's why we go there. Orders at over 100. Get some sleep. Sleep. We all know what that means. You sit with your back against the wall, and your rifle across your knees, and you close one eye at a time. You listen for boots on the stairs, for the whistle of shells, for the scrape of boots against broken glass. If you are lucky, you get 5 minutes here, 5 there. Kruger leans closer while the others argue about cigarettes. You ever seen your double Otto? He asks quietly. No, I say. Have you? He smiles with only one side of his mouth. Only in the mirror when I shave, he says. That's enough. He taps his rifle butt against his boot again. 5 taps. Pause. The rhythm worms into my head and stays there. The next night, I lie awake in my chair and hear the tram again. The wall trembles. A pinch of brick dust falls next to my shoe. I do not look at the crack. Instead, I wrap my hand around the old Mauser that rests against the wall beside my bed. It is unloaded. The bolt is stiff with disuse, but my fingers find it in the dark exactly where they did in that room in Stalingrad, as if the last 80 years are a bad dream instead of the winter of 1942. The air in the apartment smells of boiled cabbage from a neighbor's kitchen, but underneath it, there is another smell. Cold dust. Old mortar. The stink that gets into your hair and under your fingernails when you spend your days crawling through other people's ruined homes. I close my eyes. The radiators hiss. The sound turns into the whisper of snow blowing across broken windows. I am back in the house of 8 corners before we even know it by that name. We move through Stalingrad at night. You don't walk upright. You move like a rat. You hug walls. You cross streets in a dead sprint, shoulders hunched, expecting the white-green flash of a flare at any second. We carry our rifles close to our bodies, barrels low, optics wrapped in rags. The city is nothing but angles and shadows, chimneys without roofs, walls without rooms, staircases that go nowhere. Firelight flickers from somewhere deep in the ruins to our left. We freeze in a doorway, backs pressed to icy bricks, and listen. No voices, no boots. Just the crackle of something still burning 3 days after the last bombardment. Smoke hangs low. When I breathe through my scarf, it tastes of charred wood, burned cloth, and meat. Otto, Kruger whispers, touching my sleeve. Look, across the street, someone has painted a shape on the last remaining piece of a house wall. It is a crude figure in charcoal, a man lying on his back, hands folded on his chest, no face. Just a white blank where the features should be. Beneath it, a word in Russian I cannot read. Ivan sees it and murmurs something under his breath. He touches his chest, then his lips, then the wall as he passes. A quick 3-point pattern. What does it say? I ask. He shrugs without looking back. Ground floor, he says. Basement. Below. Same word. Superstitious nonsense. Vote hisses behind us. Keep moving. We keep moving. The snow has not yet come in force, but the air is cold enough to bite the inside of my nose. Rubble crunches under my boots. Every sound feels too loud. Somewhere, a machine gun rattles a short, hard burst. Someone answers with a mortar. We feel the distant thump through our feet. By the time we reach the House of 8 Corners, I understand why the Russians gave it a name. It sits where 4 streets meet, each one reduced to a funnel of broken stone. The house itself is more suggestion than structure. 4 wings once met around a courtyard, forming 8 corners if you stood in the right place and squinted. Now, 3 of the wings are gutted. 1 is split neatly in half, like a loaf of bread cut with a knife. Only 1 corner still holds together enough to be called a building. 4 floors, windows like empty eye sockets. The roof has pancaked down in layers, filling the stairwell with broken concrete and twisted iron. Perfect, Vogt says under his breath. No one sane will be here. Good field of fire. Otto Rehmann, their 3rd floor if you can reach it. Ivan, with them. Muller, radio by the entry. I'll be on the 2nd floor. We hold until dusk. No heroics. No heroics. We nod. We all know that the word has no meaning here. We climb. The staircase is a throat clogged with rubble. Each step is a negotiation. Bricks shift under our weight. Plaster crumbles. Rusted rebar snags at our coats like fingers. We move one at a time, listening for the telltale hollow echo that means empty space beneath the pile. On the 2nd landing, light spills through a hole where the exterior wall used to be. I stop to catch my breath and look down. That is when I see him. He lies on his back in a triangle of sunlight on the rubble-strewn floor below. Gray uniform, German cut, rifle across his chest. 1 leg twisted at a wrong angle under a slab of concrete. His face turned slightly toward the staircase. My face. I grip the railing. Dust slides under my boots. For a heartbeat, I am sure the ice in my veins will crack and shatter loud enough for everyone to hear. Otto, Kruger whispers from above. You coming? I blink. The light shifts. A cloud crosses the sky outside. The triangle of sunlight disappears. When my eyes adjust, the figure is gone. Just bricks. Just a beam. Just a discarded sandbag split open like a pale belly. I swallow. Fine, I say. I'm coming. On the 3rd floor, we find a room with 3 walls still standing and a view across the crossing streets toward the Volga. The far bank is a smear of darkness. Somewhere beyond it, more Russians cross in boats under cover of night. Somewhere above it, our artillery sends shells blindly into the fog. We set up by a window with half its frame still intact. Kruger props his spotting scope on a crate. Ivan takes the corner near the door, back against the wall, eyes on the staircase. I unwrap my rifle. The familiar weight settles into my shoulder. The cold metal kisses my cheek. I adjust the elevation drum, then the windage, listening to the faint clicks like teeth knocking together. Targets, Kruger murmurs. Wait, I say. Let the city breathe. We wait. The city breathes in short, ragged gasps. Shells exhale high overhead. Flames lick at the dark. The frozen air carries every sound farther than it should. A shouted order becomes a ghost voice. A single shot echoes, as if fired from 3 different directions at once. In my scope, the world narrows to a circle of monotone ruin. I see the broken lip of a crater in the street, white smeared from old frost. I see a dead horse frozen where it fell, legs sticking up at stiff angles like black branches. I see movement. Left of the crater, I whisper. Ground floor window, building with the collapsed balcony. Kruger raises his scope. His breath fogs the lens. He wipes it. Quick motion, then nods. Got him. Soviet helmet. Probably observer. Wind right to left. Half value. Range 200. I exhale. The crosshairs settle against the dark slit of the window. The man inside leans forward, just enough for me to see the pale oval of his face. His mouth moves. He points past the crater toward a shadow line that might hide a machine gun. I squeeze the trigger. The rifle kicks. The sound fills the ruined room, shocking the dust from the ceiling. In the scope, the man jerks back, as if pulled by a string. Something dark sprays the wall behind him. "1," Kruger says softly. We work. Time flattens in a sniper's nest. There are only shots and breaths and targets, and the slow creep of cold into your fingers. We take men crossing streets, heads rising behind walls, shoulders leaning out from door frames. We take them in ones and twos, never more than that, never enough to change the course of the battle, just enough to make everything around us quieter, as those who remain learn to duck sooner. By midday, my cheek is numb where it rests against the stock. My right eye burns from staring through the scope. My left eye waters and blurs the room. "Change position," Kruger mutters at last. "They'll triangulate." I nod. We shift to the next room, then the next, dragging crates and planks to make new rests, leaving the last firing point cold. At one point, when we move down the hall, I glance through a doorway toward the stairwell. Light slices in from above, illuminating the broken steps. Down below, on the landing, I see my own boots sticking out from under a chunk of concrete. The toes point upward. There is a smear of dried mud on the left one, shaped like a question mark. I know that smear. I saw it this morning when I laced them. My throat closes. "Kruger," I whisper. "Do you see that?" He follows my gaze, squints. "See what he says?" I look again. The boots are gone. Just rubble. Just twisted metal. "Nothing," I say. "Forget it." He tilts his head. "You're pale. It's cold." He grunts and moves on. Behind us, Ivan murmurs in Russian again, words that sound like someone spitting out gravel. He touches his chest, his lips, the wall. "What are you saying?" I snap. "Just not to call him," he says. "Call who?" "The one below." In the evening, shells find us. There is no warning whistle. There is just sudden pressure, like a hand slapping the whole building, and then a sound so loud it becomes a solid thing. The floor jumps under us. The window frame implodes. Glass and brick fragments turn into a swarm. I hit the ground. The rifle slides from my hands. Something heavy smacks my helmet and leaves my ears ringing. Dust fills my mouth. I cough and taste iron. Everyone alive. Wogd's voice filters through the haze from somewhere down the corridor. "Here," I croak. "Third floor. Radio," he calls. Silence, then a static cough from below. I push myself up on my elbows. The room is half its size. The outer wall is gone. Where the window used to be, there is open air and a view straight down into the street 3 floors below. Kruger lies against the opposite wall, blood shining on his forehead. His eyes are open and wild. "Artillery," he says unnecessarily. "Short bastards are walking it up the street." "Stay down," I say. Another shell hits nearby. The floor rolls under us. The remains of the ceiling give up and pour down in a gray cloud. I grab my rifle and crawl toward the interior wall. My hand brushes something soft. I look down. A glove. My glove. Still on a hand. The sleeve attached to it is my sleeve. The cuff frayed where I burned it on a stove weeks ago. The cuff with the missing button. The arm extends under a slab of concrete. The rest of the body is pinned beneath blocks and beams. The head is turned sideways, face up, eyes closed. My face dust settles on my own eyelashes in a fine lace. My lips are parted slightly, as if I'm about to say something, but never will. A thin trail of blood has dried from one nostril to the corner of my mouth. I stare at myself. Otto. Kruger crawls over broken boards. His hand closes on my shoulder. "Otto, get away from the edge." If the wall goes, he follows my gaze. His fingers tighten. His nails bite through my coat. "Do you see that?" I whisper. He squints. Eyes flick from me to the rubble and back. "I see bricks." He snaps. "You're in shock. Move." He yanks me backward as another shell hits. The slab under my arm shifts. The dead fingers curl as dust pours off them. For a heartbeat, the eyes in the rubble open and look straight at me. My own eyes. The world goes white. When the sound returns, we are on the staircase. Someone is shouting. The building groans like a wounded animal. Pieces of ceiling fall in chunks, smashing steps into powder. Down. Vote yells from below. Get down. We scramble, half sliding, half falling. The steps under my boots give way. I drop to my knees, palms scraping concrete. For a second, the stairwell opens below me, a black throat filled with dust and light and the faint glint of broken glass. My double stares up at me from the first floor landing, exactly as before. Exactly where I am about to fall. I grab for the rail. My fingers close on empty air. Something slams into my chest. A shoulder. Kruger, he throws his weight sideways, ramming me into the wall. The step below my boot crumbles into nothing. Rubble cascades into the void where my body should have gone. He pins me there, breath hot in my ear. Move, idiot, he gasps. We move. On the street, the air is full of dust and snow, and men who look as if they have already been buried. We stumble into a doorway across from the House of 8 Corners, as another shell tears a chunk out of its upper floors. Debris rains down, clattering on our helmets. The building's silhouette changes in front of our eyes. One of its 8 corners folds in on itself, with a slow, reluctant slowness. A cough of smoke rises from the collapse. Roll call. Vote shouts. Names. Voices answer. Not enough of them, Muller. Silence. We all look up at the wound in the building where our radio man was supposed to be. Through the drifting dust, I see a figure lying on the 3rd floor ruins, arms spread. For a second, I think it is my double again. Then a flash of movement tells me otherwise. The figure twitches. The hand gropes for something that isn't there. Then the floor under him shears away. He vanishes into the interior. A second later, the sound reaches us. A dull, final thud. Ivan makes a sign with his hand again. Chest, lips, wall. Stop that. Vote snaps. He's dead. The rest of you, back to the fallback line. This place is a magnet. We pull back through alleys choked with rubble. The House of 8 Corners watches us go with its broken eye sockets. All night, I hear the sound of stones settling. In the present, the tram passes again. The wall in my apartment cracks a fraction wider. I hear something slide inside it, like a rifle stock shifting against bone. I do not call the nurse. Instead, I stand, slowly, hand on the armrest for balance. My legs protest. My knees feel full of broken glass. I cross the room and place my palm flat against the plaster. It is cold. For a second, the texture changes. Not smooth modern paint, but rough, pitted concrete. Under my skin, I feel the outlines of bricks, gaps, the edges of a beam. I pull my hand back, and there is dust on my palm. Real dust, gray and fine. Embedded in it, a tiny shard of brown bottle glass glints. I rinse it off in the sink. The water runs cloudy. The next morning in Stalingrad, our sector changes. They move us closer to the factories, to streets with names we can barely pronounce. Red October, Barricade. Metal pipes poke from ruined walls, like bones. The House of 8 Corners is now behind our line, or what passes for a line here. But everyone still talks about it. They say every man who went in there saw his own corpse. One of the grenadiers tells us over a pot of thin soup. They say, Ivan called it years ago. Old women refused to step inside. Whole families walked around the block. How do you know what old women did here? Kruger asks. You weren't even born when they were building these slums. The grenadier shrugs. I know because nobody wants the machine gun nests near it. That tells me enough. We go where we're sent. The winter tightens its grip. Our coats grow stiff with frozen sweat. Our beards collect icicles from our breath. We learn to recognize the sound of Soviet mortar by the particular fat, wet thump they make taking off. The legend of the double grows in the telling. A man from another company swears he saw his brother lying face down in the rubble weeks before the telegram reached home. A medic says he tripped over his own boots in a cellar and found no footprints leading in or out. A machine gun team refuses to use a certain staircase, because every time they pass the second landing, they hear their own voices echoing from below, repeating what they said 10 minutes earlier. I try to keep my mind on numbers, range, wind, elevation, clicks of the drum, the weight of the trigger just before it breaks. But sometimes, when I settle behind the scope, the circle of glass fills with something else. My own face, lying at the bottom of a shell hole, half covered by snow. My own hand sticking out from a collapsed trench, fingers blue and stiff. My own rifle leaning against a wall with no one nearby. Blink, and it's gone. Blink, and there is only what should be there. Broken brick, dead horse, Russian helmet. Your eye is playing tricks, the company doctor says, when I finally stumble into his aid post after a week of headaches and half-seen corpses. Too much strain, you snipers, you stare too long. Avoid direct light, rest the eye. Should I close it while the Russians advance? I ask. He doesn't laugh. He dabs something bitter on a wad of gauze and presses it to the corner of my eye. It stings. You see yourself dead, he says quietly, head bent close to mine so no one else hears. How many times? I hesitate. 3, I say. Maybe 4. He nods once. There is a story like that from the last war, he says. In the Argonne, men swore they saw their own bodies in the mud the day before they died. The mind is cruel. It uses what it has. Here, it has rubble, faces, memory, nothing more. Does your story say what happens to the ones who see themselves and live? I ask. He doesn't answer. He moves away to another cot. The next time I see my double, there is no doctor to talk to. We are taking shelter in a basement during a bombardment. The upper floors are already gone. Rubble filters down between the beams like flour through a sieve, each time a shell hits nearby. We huddle around a candle stuck in an empty ration tin. The flame bends with every concussion. Someone starts humming. Low, tuneless, a sound to fill the silence between impacts. I realize it, S. Kruger. His hand beats that same pattern on his knee. 5 taps, pause. 5 taps, pause. Stop it, I snap. You'll knock the building down with that. He smirks, but stops. In the corner, Ivan sits with his back to a cracked foundation wall. Water seeps through in thin threads, freezing as it runs. He watches the ice grow in slow stalactites. His lips move silently. Maybe a prayer, maybe an inventory of the dead. Tell us again, one of the grenadiers says suddenly. About the double, about the one who lies below. I liked that one. No, Ivan says. Why not? We're not going anywhere. Might as well be scared of something new. He finally looks up, eyes hollow. You like it now, he says. You won't like it when you see your own boots sticking out of the stones. And you will. Everyone does here. He glances at me when he says it. I open my mouth to deny it, to call it peasant superstition, to repeat Wogd's contempt. Then the floor gives a small sharp lurch, like a train shifting tracks, and the candle goes out. In the darkness, something moves under our feet. Not a rat, not a trickle of stones. Something larger, sliding, rearranging itself. The hairs on my arms stand up under my sleeves. The air smells of damp earth and something else. Old clothes left too long in a corner. Breath that has nowhere to go. Someone fumbles with a lighter. The flame flares and shows a new crack in the floor, right between my boots. The concrete has split just enough to reveal a strip of darkness. In it, for a second, I see a hand lying palm up, fingers loose. My hand, a scar on the thumb where I cut it, on a rifle sight at Smolensk. I step back so fast, my heel hits a brick, and I sit down hard. What is it? Kruger asks. I point. The crack shows only earth now. Damp, black. A trickle of water. No hand. Nothing, I say. Just the building settling. Ivan shakes his head. The house wants to know you, he murmurs. We get used to being known. When January comes and the ring around us closes, there is no more question of rest. No more talk of doubles as stories. Everything is doubled now anyway. Hunger and cold. Shells and bullets. One enemy in front, one behind. I go out less often with the rifle. There are fewer bullets, more important things than my shots. But command still calls for us when there is something they desperately need to see, and they can't risk a whole squad to find out. One of those days is the last day I see my double in the rubble while I am still breathing above it. We are ordered to cover a supply run across a rail yard east of the factory district. Men will drag sleds loaded with sacks and crates across an open space under cover of smoke. Somewhere, there is a Soviet machine gun that has been chewing them up for days. Find it. Kill it, Vogt says. His cheeks are hollow. His eyes are sunk deep. Frost clings to his lashes. If you don't, the bread won't make it. And neither will we. We move through warehouses gutted by fire, through rooms where sacks of grain have burst and frozen into strange, pale dunes. The rail yard opens ahead of us, a flat expanse of twisted tracks, and low mounds of snow blown against broken wagons. We find a vantage point on a half-collapsed loading platform. The wind knifes through the gaps. It smells of coal smoke and frozen metal. I settle behind the scope. The smoke screen is just starting to billow as men drag sleds from one side of the yard to the other. Figures bend low, leaning into their harnesses. Their breath steams. "Where are you?" I whisper to the unseen gun. We listen. Amid the distant booms and cracks, there it is. A distinct, rhythmic chatter. The sound of a Maxim, maybe, or a DP. It echoes strangely between the wagons. North end, near the rusted tanker, Kruger says, listening with his head tilted. "See the puff of snow above that mound? That's your barrel climb." I adjust. The crosshairs sweep over the yard, past a shattered signal box, past a row of frozen corpses half buried in snow. Then I see it. Not the gun. Not yet. Something else. Near the base of the mound, half covered by drifted snow and fallen bricks, lies a body on its side. One arm outstretched, fingers splayed. The face turned toward me. It is my face. The snow on my double's cheek is crusted with ice. A thin layer of frost coats the eyelashes. The mouth is slightly open, as if caught in the act of shouting. The barrel flashes nearby, sending up a spray of snow. "Do you have it?" Kruger presses. My throat locks. I see. Something. Another burst. Men in the yard drop. One sled slews sideways. A sack bursts open, spilling a cloud of flour that explodes into the air like smoke. 4 degrees right, Kruger snaps. "You're on the body. The gun is behind it. Focus, Otto." I drag the crosshairs away from my own dead eyes. Behind the body, half hidden by broken sleepers, I see the muzzle flare. A Soviet in a white smock huddles behind his weapon. His face is wrapped in cloth, only the eyes visible. I breathe out, slow. I squeeze. The shot cracks. The gunner's head jerks sideways. The weapon goes quiet. In the yard, one of the sled teams keeps moving, not yet realizing the barrage has stopped. Another lies still, sprawled in unnatural shapes. I keep the scope on the mound. The Soviet slumps. The snow around him stains gray. My double does not move. For a moment, the wind shifts and blows the snow clear of the face. I see a new detail now, a dark burn mark on the cheek where a cartridge once ejected too close. I reach up and touch my own cheek through the scarf. The skin there is rough, the same mark. I hit the gun, I say. "Good," Kruger murmurs. "That's all that matters." I am not sure if he is talking about the machine gun or something else. 2 nights later, the order comes for a breakout attempt. You know the rest, or you can look it up in any history book. It doesn't matter here whether Paulus surrenders or whether a general in a rear headquarters decides we are expendable. For us, it is simple. We will try to punch through, and most of us will not. The night before, I sit alone in a corner of a cellar with my rifle across my knees and my back against a wall that sweats ice. The others sleep in piles, wrapped in blankets, sharing breath. I trace the lines of the stock with my fingers. The wood is worn smooth where my cheek has rested again and again. From somewhere above, through layers of rubble and snow, comes a faint, steady sound. Not shells, not boots. Stones sliding against each other. I close my eyes. I know you, I whisper. The sound stops. When it starts again, it comes from beneath me instead. I get up and move to a different patch of floor. The stones follow. In the morning, we form up in the street. The men are ghosts already. Hollow faces, frost in their beards. Rifles without ammunition. Some carry shovels. Some carry nothing at all. Snow falls in fine grains, almost ash. We advance. The Soviets let us come far enough to think we might make it. Then they open up. The world becomes a wall of sound and hot metal. Men drop. Sleds overturn. Officers wave their pistols and then disappear in fountains of snow and blood. I run because there is nothing else to do. The ground is uneven under my boots, churned by previous attacks. I trip over something soft, land hard on my knees, and roll behind a low ridge of frozen earth and debris. Someone falls beside me, hard enough to drive the breath from my lungs. Otto, Kruger's voice, close. He drags himself into the hollow, gasping. There is blood on his scarf. His hand beats its pattern on the snow. 5 taps, pause. 5 taps, pause. Slower now. Are you hit? I shout. He laughs once, coughs. Everywhere, he says. Listen, don't go back to that house. You hear me? Not that one. Any other ruin, but not that. I open my mouth to answer. The ground behind us erupts. The air becomes shrapnel and dirt and bodies. I feel myself lifted, thrown. The world spins. For an instant, I hang weightless over a hole torn in the frozen earth. Below me lies a body on its back, arms at its sides, eyes open. My body. I see every detail. The torn sleeve, the scar on the thumb, the burn mark on the cheek, the way the lips are parted, as if I am about to say my own name. My rifle lies across my chest. I fall toward myself. Then something catches me. Not hands, not arms. Something harder. A beam, a slab, a ledge of broken concrete. My ribs slam into it. Pain explodes. I roll sideways into darkness. The last thing I see before the snow and dust swallow the light is my own face disappearing under a new rain of rubble. When I wake, it is quiet. No shells, no shouts. Just the slow, steady settling of stones. I am wedged in a pocket of space under who knows what. My left leg is pinned. My right arm is free. I cough and taste blood and dust. The air is thin and stale. I reach up. My fingers touch brick, then void, then the cold smoothness of my rifle stock. It lies across my chest, just as it did on the body below. The same weight. Otto, a voice whispers. Not from above, not from below, inside the stones. It sounds like my own voice and someone else's at the same time. I lie there for a long time, listening to myself telling me nothing. They dig me out hours later, or days. I never know. When the Russian rescuers pull me into the gray light, they look surprised to find someone breathing. One of them laughs and says something I don't catch. Another looks down into the hole I came from and crosses himself. I twist, ignoring the pain in my ribs, and look. There is no body there, just rubble, just ice, just an empty space shaped like a man. They march us into captivity soon after. The House of 8 Corners falls out of our maps. The city gets a new name in my lifetime. But some places don't change. They just move. In the camp, at night, lying on a bunk with bedbugs marching over my skin, I hear stones shifting under the floor. In the train on the way back years later, crossing bridges and plains and mountains, there is always a moment when the wheels hit a bad section of track and the carriage sways and I think, this is it. This is where the ground opens and I see myself lying below. In my first small apartment after the war, my wife complains about the cracks in the ceiling. The building is cheap, she says. The landlord doesn't care. I lie awake and feel dust trickle on my face and in the darkness. I see my own boots sticking out of the plaster overhead. If you see your own corpse, you die, Ivan had said. He died in the encirclement. I found out years later from a book. That's one version of the story. Anyway, I saw my corpse. I am still here. The cost is just delayed. In the care home where they moved me before this apartment, there was a man down the hall who used to scream at night. The nurses said he was harmless. Shell shock, they called it. He said he was in Warsaw. In '44, he said there was a tunnel under the ghetto where the footsteps never stopped. He died one winter. Cardiac arrest. The night they wheeled his body out, the light in his room flickered. The cracks in the corridor plaster widened a fraction. I saw, for an instant, a line of boots through the wall, marching in perfect unison toward a place that no longer existed. The building I live in now is newer. Concrete plates bolted together after a different war, with different men standing in different rubble. They say concrete doesn't settle like brick. They say modern construction is safer. They are wrong. I sit by the window every afternoon and watch the light in the courtyard move from one wall to another. Children play there sometimes. They bounce balls off the asphalt. They kick at the piles of dust left from the demolished garages. One afternoon, a boy of 10 or 11 leans down and picks something out of the rubble. He turns it over in his hand, frowning. Then he looks up at my window. Our eyes meet. He raises his hand, showing me what he holds. It is a piece of cracked, dirty mirror. In it, for a heartbeat, I see my own reflection. Not as I am now, not lined in gray. As I was at 22, in a field coat with a sniper's badge, dust on my cheeks. The boy squints as if the weight of that face is too much for him. Then he drops the mirror. It shatters against the pavement with a sound like a rifle shot. He runs inside. That night, the tram doesn't pass. Track maintenance. The notice downstairs says, the building still trembles. I wake to a sound I haven't heard like this in decades. Stones, sliding, rearranging. I look at the wall. The crack by the radiator has branched. It stretches across the plaster, toward the ceiling, jagged as a lightning bolt. Dust leaks from it, in a thin, steady stream. I swing my legs out of bed. The floor is cold under my bare feet. I cross the room, every joint protesting, and stop an arm's length from the crack. The sound grows louder. I reach for the light switch. Before I can touch it, the crack widens like a mouth. For a moment, there is nothing inside but darkness. Then the plaster crumbles away in a sheet, falling around my feet. Behind it is not insulation and brick. It is air, cold air. And beyond that, another space that should not be there. Rubble, concrete slabs at wrong angles, twisted rebar, a staircase with half its steps missing, leading down into shadow. On the first landing lies a body, German field coat, boots caked in dust, rifle across its chest, face turned up toward me. My face, the same burn on the cheek, the same scar on the thumb, the same parted lips. His eyes are open, my eyes are open. I stand there, heart pounding, breath shallow. Otto, he says. His voice is mine, and not mine. It comes from his mouth, and from the stones, and from my own throat, all at once. You were supposed to stay below, I whisper. He smiles slightly. You went on without me, he says. I stayed here. I waited. Behind him, in the depths of the rubble, shapes shift. Other bodies, other faces, helmets, boots. A hand taps on a stone in a slow pattern. 5 taps, pause, 5 taps, pause. Kruger, I say. The tapping stops. Many houses, my double murmurs, 1 man below in each. They lie there and match the ones above. When the time is right, they trade places. I lived, I say, stupidly. Yes, he says. For a while, he moves his hand. The rifle across his chest slides toward the edge of the landing. The stock hangs over nothing. Come down, he says. I'll give it back. My knees tremble. I am 80-something years old. My bones are brittle. One wrong step, and I will break something that will not mend. But the air in the room is wrong now. It smells of cold dust and old fire. The ceiling seems lower, the floor less certain. The only solid thing is the edge of the broken wall and the staircase beyond. I take a step forward. Plaster crunches under my heel. I would rather not, I say. He laughs. It is a soft sound, like dirt falling. It isn't a choice, he says. It never was. You know that. You felt it when you hung over me in the rail yard, when the beam caught you, when they dug you out instead of me. He shifts again. The rubble under his body slides. A small shower of stones spills from the edge of the landing into darkness. I hear them bounce off other surfaces far below. The sound goes on longer than it should. Behind me, in the apartment, something ticks. The clock over the sink, the second hand jerks forward. I realize suddenly that it has been stuck at the same minute since the crack opened. 3:17. The tram outside is silent. The street is empty. The world beyond my window might as well be a photograph. Only here, at this broken wall, is there movement. Who are you? I ask, though I know. He blinks slowly. I am the man the house took, he says. The one who lies where you should have. The double, the below. I am what Ivan warned you about, and you are what climbed away. Why now? I ask. He glances at the ceiling. The house has moved, he says. The stones don't care which city they are in. They only care who they owe. He extends his hand. His fingers are stained with old dust. The nails are blackened. The skin is split. I step closer to the edge. The air is colder here, as if the staircase opens into a winter that never ended. You could have taken me then, I say. I did, he says. Just slowly. My chest aches. Not the dull, familiar ache of age. A sharper pain, like a shell fragment under the ribs. I press my hand there. My fingers come away dusted with gray. Come, he says again. I know if I shout now, the nurse will come. She will see a frail old man standing too close to a cracked wall. She will pull me back, call an ambulance, call someone to fix the plaster. Men with tools will come. They will chip away the broken section. They will find brick and insulation and the hollow space between apartments. They will not find the rubble, I see. They will not see me lying below. The idea of trying to explain any of it is more exhausting than the climb looks. I take another step. My foot finds the first stair. It feels solid under my sole. The cold seeps through my skin. The room behind me fades. The corridor light outside my door becomes a memory. The tick of the clock stops. All I hear is the slow, familiar sound of stones sliding against stones, making room. I put my hand on the broken edge of the wall. Below, my double nods. He shifts to the side, making space for me on the landing. You will like it, he lies. It's quiet here. No tram, no nurses. Only the ones who never left. On the landing below him, I see a shape sitting with its back to a wall. Thin face, blue eyes, hand tapping on a stone in a slow pattern. 5 taps, pause. 5 taps, pause. Otto Kruger says, you took your time. The air is full of brick, dust, and cold, and the faint echo of distant artillery that might just be my own blood in my ears. I smile despite myself. Had to finish the story, I say. Their faces turn up toward me. Mine, his, others I only half remember. Russian, German, men from a city that does not exist anymore. Then come, my double says. I step down. If you're still listening, if you stayed with me this far, then you already know the sound walls can make when they start to move. Keep that in mind the next time you hear your house settling at night and you feel the dust on your skin. Some stories don't end when the guns fall silent. They just wait for the walls to crack. Remember this as a name on stone. Jeff Ryder, Otto Rehmann, 2. Bataillon Infantry Regiment 134, 44, Infantry Division, 6th Army at Stalingrad, and all the men whose bodies lay below before anyone bothered to write them down.